If you've ever felt like the path to paradise is just this impossibly high mountain to climb, filled with super complex rituals and unattainable levels of piety, you are absolutely going to love this explainer. We're going to take what can sometimes feel like an intimidating list of spiritual signs and break them down into totally accessible, deeply comforting daily habits.
I actually want you to break the fourth wall with me for a second and honestly ask yourself, how many of these 8 signs do you possess right now? And hey, if the answer feels like 0, don't worry about it. By the end of this journey, you're going to realize that these aren't superhuman traits. They're just gentle, everyday choices you can start making today. Let's find out exactly where you stand. Section 1, Foundations and Forgiveness. Before you can build a towering spiritual skyscraper, you really need a simple, solid foundation. You don't need to perform miracles to be promised paradise. You just need pure, sincere commitment to the basics. The sources share this brilliant story of a simple Bedouin man, dusty from travel, walking right up to the prophet. He wasn't looking for advanced theology. He simply asked what was strictly obligated of him. So the prophet laid out the 5 daily prayers, fasting, zakat, and hajj. That's the whole shebang. The Bedouin listened closely, fully grasping the absolute simplicity of these core pillars.
And right before he turned to walk away, he delivered this incredibly powerful promise. By him who sent you with the truth, I will not add to this nor subtract from it. He wasn't going to overcomplicate his religion. And the prophet's reaction? He just smiled broadly and told his companions that if this man is truthful, he's succeeded. He literally said that anyone who wants to look at a man of paradise should look at him. Pure, unwavering commitment to the basics is your primary ticket.
Now, what's really interesting about this slide is how it completely redefines a practice we all think we know, istighfar, or seeking forgiveness. We're not talking about cold, empty words just mumbled by the tongue while your mind is entirely somewhere else. We're talking about a heart that literally never stops hoping for the Creator's mercy. It's a continuous, active state of humility.
To really understand the raw power of this, let's look at the incredibly evocative story of Imam Ahmed bin Hanbal. He was a massively famous scholar, yet while traveling in a strange town, he was harshly turned away from sleeping in a mosque by a guard who had no idea who he was. A humble baker across the street saw this old man and invited him in for the night. Imam Ahmed watched the baker work and noticed he said astaghfirullah with every single movement, every time he kneaded the dough, every loaf he put in the oven. Imam Ahmed finally asked him if he'd seen the fruits of this constant istighfar. The baker smiled and said Allah had answered every single one of his prayers in his entire life, except for exactly one.
That one single unanswered prayer? The baker simply wanted to meet Imam Ahmed. Upon hearing this, the great scholar just burst into tears and hugged him. I mean, talk about narrative tension. Allah hadn't just answered the prayer. He had literally dragged Imam Ahmed by his feet, got him kicked out of a mosque, all to deliver him directly to this baker's shop. That is the universe-bending power of true istighfar.
And the eternal reward for this habit is just staggering. The Prophet mentions that glad tidings go to those who find abundant istighfar in their records. This reward is called duba. It's a massive tree in paradise. A writer could travel in its shade for 100 years and still never reach the end of it. Just think about that. A tongue moist with forgiveness in this life secures this unimaginable shade in the next.
Section 2. The Private Connection.
While those earlier signs are things people might see, our third sign is all about what happens when everyone else is fast asleep. It's that secret, warm tear shed in the dead of the night. This happens when a believer is completely alone, maybe reflecting on their shortcomings, or just totally overwhelmed by the majesty and love of the Creator. That single tiny drop of water, unseen by any human, unrecorded by any camera, acts as a supreme, eternal safety net protecting you from the fire. And this brilliantly illustrates just how certain this promise is. The source text compares 2 absolute impossibilities. Just as it's physically impossible for milk to flow backward into the udder of a sheep after it's been milked, it's equally impossible for the hellfire to touch a body that wept out of the awe of Allah. It's a powerful physical metaphor that completely guarantees this spiritual promise. The fourth sign is an intense, real love for the Quran, and not as a heavy chore, but as a comforting companion. On the day of judgment, while people are terrified, the Quran actually comes as a bright light and a friend. The command given is just beautiful. Read, ascend, and recite. The exact words you turn to for peace in this world will literally elevate your physical body in the next, raising you up degree by degree, until you stop at the very last verse you used to recite. Section 3.
Overcoming daily hardships. So let's reframe our earthly trials into heavenly stepping stones. Our fifth sign revolves around what the sources call the silent battle. Picture this. It's a freezing winter night. The call for Fajr prayer breaks the silence. Your body is begging for that warm bed, but your soul craves its Lord. Perfecting your wudu, washing thoroughly to your elbows and ankles with that freezing cold water, isn't just a chore. The prophet revealed that those freezing water drops act as a luminous ladder, literally erasing your sins and elevating your rank just for fighting that internal battle. So, the crucial point is what happens when we face social friction. Our sixth sign is the ability to just leave an argument. We've all been there, right? A heated debate where you know for a fact you're right. You could easily crush the other person to prove it. But choosing to stay silent to protect your brother or sister's heart, prioritizing peace over a fake victory, that's an act of immense inner strength, not weakness. The reward for biting your tongue here is literally mind-blowing. The prophet himself guarantees a palace in the outskirts of paradise for the one who leaves an argument even when they are 100% right. Just think about that. A literal palace, guaranteed, just because you held your tongue and swallowed your pride in a fleeting moment of anger.
Let's take a quick breather and reflect on our journey so far. Notice how none of these require you to be some flawless angel. Committing to the basics, saying a istighfar, shedding a private tear, loving the Quran, braving cold water, and walking away from petty arguments. These are deeply attainable, everyday habits. They're completely within your reach right now.
Section 4. Purity of the heart. Now we're going to look at how a flawless inner state produces incredible outward action. Amidst the terrifying crowds on the Day of Judgment, who do you actually think gets seated closest to the prophet? You might assume it's the people with the highest status, the most fame, or those who prayed constantly without ever sleeping. But the answer is actually so much closer to home.
The answer is husnul khuluq, good character. This is our seventh sign. The prophet explicitly said the closest to him are those with the best character. It's a kind word to someone who's hurting. It's giving your family a sincere smile when you walk through the door. It's keeping your patience when you're angry. Good character isn't some impossible ritual. It's the ultimate document guaranteeing your home next to the prophet.
Let's move to and see how this builds perfectly into our eighth and final sign, illustrated by a truly suspenseful story. The prophet was sitting with his companions and said, "A man of paradise will appear now." A super simple man walks in. The next day, the prophet says the exact same thing and the same guy walks in. Day 3, it happens again. Now, a prominent companion, Abdullah bin Omar, couldn't take the suspense. He essentially followed the man home and stayed with him for 3 nights, fully expecting to see him praying all night and fasting all day. But he saw nothing special, just an ordinary guy doing his basic duties. Completely shocked, Abdullah finally asked him what his secret was. And the man dropped this massive twist. He said, "I do not find in myself any deceit towards any Muslim, nor do I envy anyone for the good Allah has given them." That was his superpower. The eighth sign is Salamat al-Sadr, soundness of the heart. Going to sleep every single night with a heart completely free of malice, grudges, or envy towards anyone. Section 5. Your heavenly journey. We've mapped out a highly achievable blueprint today. These aren't just abstract religious concepts, right? They're a psychological and spiritual toolkit for a way better life here and a perfect life in the hereafter. So I leave you with this final thought. You absolutely don't have to master all 8 by tomorrow morning. But which of these signs are you going to start working on today? Will you perfect your wudu, walk away from an argument, or maybe just forgive someone before your head hits the pillow tonight? The gates are wide open. The choice is yours. Thank you for joining me on this explainer, and I'll catch you in the next one.